So this is Dr. Mobeen Sayed in our cafe. I saw a bunch of folks here. So today we're going to answer some of the questions. So let me just show very quickly. These are the questions that were asked last week, and we would go over the one that are most liked, and then we go from there. But in the meantime, I see that Diaz is here, Doug is here, Lisu, hello, how is everyone? Aljabra Bean is here. Diaz is here. Diaz, I hope everything is okay. Iggy Pop is here. Then Old School is here. Margaret McInnes is here. John is here. John, I love this deal. Dr. Bean's deal is such a great deal that Elon Musk bought it 100 times. Good. And wants to buy Dr. Bean medical lectures. Awesome. So want to hear some comments. It's always fun to look at the comments when I do these vaccine discussions. Here is a comment just under the video that I just finished. Your censorship tells me you have something to hide. I don't even know what did I censor. I actually showed all the data. So your censorship tells me you have something to hide. Unsubscribing because you're a big pharma pusher. Did my talk at all kind of allude to big pharma pushing? But anyways, one of our cool beans have become upset. So, all right. So let's do the questions. Okay. Bay Area says no. Do you know Bay Area, Arius, Aquarius? I am Aquarius as well. So let's start. First question. For those who have long COVID, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to stay above 6 likes, 6 and above. So this is 6 likes. For those who have long COVID and or MCAS flaring, what are the factors you would consider when assessing the cost versus benefit of taking the Omicron vaccine in the fall? This is totally a problem in this sense, not taking the vaccine, but making this decision, because it is actually not necessary that somebody who has MCAS will have a problem with the vaccine and the other way around. And this is really bothers me that we haven't yet been able to figure out who are the ones that respond negatively to it. So meanwhile, in America, your question is very, very valid. It is in my mind as well. But the answer is still not there. And I feel so bad that the answer, that clarity is not there. Dana King says, if mild COVID, and this is 16 likes, if mild COVID often causes long COVID. So Dana, this is not a necessity that mild would cause it. Actually, there is asymptomatic COVID that can cause long COVID as well. What should be done during illness to prevent long COVID? Once again, very interesting question. This is a very similar question to say, what can we do during acute illness that the severe illness does not occur? And you know that we still do not have the right tools to prevent them. We have a bunch of therapies. Some people believe in them, some people don't, and there are fights over them. But we still do not have a agreed upon mechanism to say this is something to do with the acute COVID and then the long severe would not occur. Or here are the genetic predispositions. Similar problem with the long COVID as well. The problem is that since illness seems mild, people think they're okay. Knowledge is power, and knowing what is most likely to help prevent. So keeping the immune system in balance, I have actually felt that not overdoing the body with lots of supplements and lots of medicines is also important to kind of keep it light while going through this. Hydration, chicken soup, anti-inflammatories, not just for the for the support of the body, but they would actually keep the immune system in check as well. Anti allergies would keep the immune system in check as well, and we have some other medicines too. But is there a treatment to say this treatment would prevent it? That's still not there. I'm so sorry. These are so good questions, and the answers are really missing yet. Then I'm going to continue here. Hilary333 says, what does the research show so far for GIT problems after COVID? Is it possible to have asymptomatic COVID and then get symptomatic GIT? So short answer, yes. A little bit more involved answer. Couple of things here. This is 5 April 2020 paper. It says GIT post-acute gastrointestinal post-acute COVID-19 syndrome. So I want to first go to this diagram. In this diagram, they have tried to figure out what happens with the GIT that the patient gets the gassy, distended abdomen, painful abdomen, and then diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, cramps, that situation. So here is what they say. They say generally in the post-acute COVID or long COVID, there is autoimmune issues, ITP or Guillain-Barré syndrome or antiphospholipid antibodies or autoreactive T cells. I would actually add anti-ACE2 antibodies and so on. Then they think persistence of viral antigen. So this may be something to do with, for example, Dr. Patterson's that monocyte have spike protein. Altered cytokine production. We have seen this, that there is altered cytokine production, and many doctors are now trying to use PD-1 type blockers or other blockers. Persistent inflammation. So pro-inflammatory cells and their continuous status. Now, that is overall bigger picture. In the GIT, these gray boxes, and let me actually put this link in the comments here. Texas Meg is not feeling well, so prayers for her. Texas, we pray that you become fully recovered soon. So, sorry, I clicked it in accidentally. Here, increase in organ-specific and systemic autoantibodies. This is correct. That one of the reasons for GIT issues is the autoantibodies against GIT. Then persistent viral antigen in the gut. And we know this, that actually viral antigen stays on till 59 days after the gut. And now there are studies that are saying that viral antigen can stay on for longer time. And even dysregulated immune cells of the gut stays within the gut walls for a longer time. So antigen is present there. Now, some studies says that these antigens that are present in the GIT are actually useful because they help with the affinity maturation of the follicular dendritic cells and the B cells and T cells in the follicles or the lymph nodes. But then there is a problem as well, that presence of the antigen in a continuous fashion will cause immune system to react continuously. Then if you see here, altered neuroimmune interaction, that is very, very important. As the inflammation occurs in the GIT, then the nerves get irritated as well, and that would cause incorrect motility and pain. Then dysbiosis, microbiome moving or becoming disrupted, persistent cellular abnormalities in the mucosa and blood. So these are the studies that show that there are disrupted cells, dysregulated immune cells within the GIT walls, and they also cause fluid imbalance, they cause absorption imbalances, they cause local inflammation, which then causes diarrhea, that causes lack of absorption or the nutrient absorption correctly. So the weight loss would occur, the pain would occur. So this is the possible pathology for the GIT issues, and this can happen without symptomatic COVID or with symptomatic COVID. And here is another article which is also interesting. This is from Harvard. So Harvard University COVID long haulers GIT symptoms. So here they also talk about various possibilities of what could be happening and various studies as well. So I'm gonna let's see if I can paste that link here as well. Pasted it in there. So that is the GIT. So what is the summary of that? Yes, GIT upset can occur. Immune cell dysregulation could be the reason. Autoantibodies could be the reason. The presence of antigen could be the reason. Okay, so then let's see more 6 and above. So there is a 5. Do you think we should avoid GMO foods? Why not? That's a very interesting question, and it's a long topic as well. Genetically modified foods. So I'm gonna, Elizabeth, if I can keep it on the docket to have a full talk about it. And also, this is lesser than 6 likes. Sorry. um, Then Doug has 7 likes. Men are apt to mistake the strength of their feeling. Men are apt, I loved it, to mistake the strength of their feeling for the strength of their argument. So if I feel strongly about something, I think my argument is going to be strong as well. That's a beautiful way of thinking about it. The heated mind resents the chill touch and relentless scrutiny of logic. William E. Gladstone, British Prime Minister, 1868 to 1894. 7 likes. I'll give a like as well. So that is well said. And we have Alcuin with the turtle. We have to name Alcuin's 5 turtles, and Keeney with the bee. Okay, so now let's say we go one level below 6. So let's start. I saw this 5 over here. So GMO foods, okay, we'll talk about it at a later time. Any other at the level of 5? No. Should we go for 3 as well? With studies showing some all long COVID is immune dysregulation, would any introduction of pathogen cause a flare up? Yes. Was thinking this could explain why non fresh food would trigger flare ups. Anything that would trigger the inflammatory state would cause a flare up. That is why I did chronic inflammation lectures. And by the way, for the chronic inflammation lectures, I think you would like this. Maybe you can actually, I made a course out of that. So here they're still working on it, my team, to finalize this page. But what I did was all the chronic inflammation lectures, I have put them in one place, and the ones that I'll continue to do, they would also be here, and that would become a course of its own. So I'm going to give you that link over here. So this is why I think, and I wrote it here, it probably seems so cheesy, but I think that we believe that everyone in the world, regardless of their expertise with medical field, should learn about inflammation, chronic inflammation, and the latest management approaches. I think it behooves us to know this. This should be a course for everyone, child or adult and man and woman and everyone. So that is the so here we studies showing all is immune dysregulation. So yes, anything that would trigger and poke immune system can cause flare up. Okay, so then Angel says, is the efficacy of intermittent fasting on the immune system affected, improved by following an extremely carb ketone diet? So any severely calorie restricting diet can become counterproductive as well by taking away from the immune system their capability of work at all. So one has to figure out where their body's balance is. Severely limiting some of the groups, namely fruits, does not seem healthy. Also, is it important to break the fast with few no carbs if this to avoid an insulin spike? That is correct, that you can avoid insulin spike with that if you want to. It really depends what is the purpose of the intermittent fasting. For example, there could be a purpose to kind of try to have the immune cells cleared out. In that case, you're really not trying to do caloric restrictions, but you're just trying to starve your body for a few hours and maybe triggering autophagy. And even if the autophagy is not triggered that fast, maybe just stopping the cells from being overactive. On the other hand, there is a purpose of reducing weight or maintaining weight, and that would have a different way of handling it. But if I answer your question, is the efficacy of intermittent fasting on the immune system affected, improved by following extreme? No. If it is extremely depriving food, then that would actually bring the immune system down. So 4 likes. Please advise how intermittent fasting will help mast cells. It seems like this session is directed towards diabetes, so I can wait till you have a class about mast cells. We can do a class for the mast cells. Yes, intermittent fasting can help mast cells as well. So naturally, Curly learns guitar. Although these are 3 likes, hit likes. Uh, but I have already talked about Sanitize. It is actually so funny that I talked about Sanitize about a year ago. Their company became very excited. They reached out and they said, "Thank you very much for talking about it. And we would love to have more discussions with you." I said, "Would you like to come and join us for a live talk?" They said yes, and then they disappeared. So I don't know if their legal said, "Don't go to Dr. Bean," or whatever happened. They just stopped communication. Just like Cell Trends. So I actually reached out to Cell Trends as well, and they became very excited. They said, "We would love to." And then they went silent. I think that because of the language barrier, maybe. So then I reached out again and they said, "Well, one of our representatives is going to be in the US on June 8th. He can do the interview." But they never actually talked about what to do, who to speak with. So it's just that was also all over the place. So these are the questions. Sky Frog is here. Hi, Sky Frog. How are you? And how are things? Susan says, "I think you have to bother on regular." Okay, so Art Ninjiok says, "Am I correct in that if I deduced that repeated wax causes a desensitized immune response?" Okay, so I'll give you the history of this question as well. This was a discussion that was started by one of the popular doctors who pushes people to not take vaccines. And he said that there would be immune system depletion, damage, and stuff like that. Then European Medicine Agency came out and they said, "We have a concern that repeated doses can cause immune system exhaustion." Now, the doctor's comment of immune system depletion is not a mechanism. Immune system exhaustion, on the other hand, is a mechanism. And what that does is, if you had watched my talk a few days ago about PD-1 blockers and in the chronic inflammation talks, it seems like I'm selling them, but they're on the YouTube as well. So you don't have to pay if you want. And but they still are so important because there are so many things I've covered in there that are important foundations. So PD-1, for example, and if the cell, our immune cells, become repeatedly exposed to an antigen, they can learn to become allergic to that. Allergic means they would just say, "I'm not reacting to it." Or they can become exhausted to it. Exhausted means that our immune system is asking them to react. Imagine all the people are trying to push a cow and they're all pushing it and saying, "Do it, do it." And the cow is just not moving. This is exhaustion. Exhaustion is where a cell decides that my B7, CD28 are not working correctly, and I'm just not going to respond. Or my B7 are nibbled away, or my PD1 blockers are active. So even when I'm given the message and I have the antigen, I'm just not going to do anything. That is immune exhaustion. That can happen in theory from repeated exposure to an antigen. However, with this context, we get exposed to common cold all the time. We don't get immune exhausted. We get exposed to strep throat all the time. We don't get immune exhausted. We have HIV. We don't get immune exhausted. We get so many kinds of infections that a problem is that those infections are the bacteria and viruses are learning how to attack us and not be affected by us. Our cells still continue to try to attack them, and we don't become immune exhausted. So giving vaccine today and then a booster and then another booster is not going to cause immune exhaustion, but it is still, I think the basic uncomfortable fact is, why would a vaccine just not have efficacy within 2 months? And that is what should be asked instead of, hey, 2 months boosters would cause exhaustion. So am I correct that if I deduce that repeated vax causes a desensitized immune response? So generally, I would not suspect that. John Snyder says, we get infected with SARS-CoV-2. Hope we don't get exhausted. Yes. DDS says, he says pushing a cow, and I think pushing a goat. Yes. Pushing a goat is a no. RA says, I read a study done at Virginia that veterans, that heart problems can be an issue for up to 1 year after infection. Do you think the same can happen from shot? And if it can, first appear 1 year after the infection? Appearing 1 year after the infection will be a difficult thing. Immediately within a month or so, with the immune system reactions, some effect that start appearing and maybe become worse and then better in a year is different. But then staying silent and then all of a sudden appearing later, let me create a mechanism. That will be, if vaccine or COVID has triggered something that continues to injure blood vessels, and blood vessels are injured and inflamed and scarred and then thickened and then constricted, and immediately heart doesn't get any trouble with that. But as that continues to happen, this is a normal mechanism as well in hypertensive people, that slowly their heart starts failing or becoming, going under stress, is that there is a continuous push against more restricted blood vessels or less flexible blood vessels. So if we could figure out a mechanism where COVID or vaccine could just damage blood vessels silently and continuously, then we could say that maybe year, 2 years later, 10 years later, 20 years later, there'll be heart failure. The question is, we have seen cardiovascular issues, but that have immediate outcomes. And if they're happening in some people for longer time, we know they're happening. So being silent and then appear is not yet seen. Gregory says, leave the cows alone. Okay. No cows being pushed. Helena says, Helene says, pushing Luffy would be the hardest. Yes. Luffy would just be picked up. John says, pushing a goat and burning a bed while playing cricket. Yeah, John, get me in trouble. Texas says, cows and slide even more dangerous. Yes. John Snyder says, I thought he was pushing a goat in sheep's clothing. Yes, that's a good idea. It was a goat in sheep's clothing. It deserved to be pushed. Okay, so So Janet says, is it possible that babies born to mothers who have recovered from COVID would have COVID-19 in their innate immunity from their mother? No. They would have immunoglobulin G if their mothers had them, which is excellent and protective. And they would have immunoglobulin A from the mother's breast milk, which is also protective. They would not have SARS-CoV-2. That was a good question. Erica says that may be your friend. Yes. Is he your friend? Sue says, do you think this analysis would pass a peer review? Which analysis, Sue? Skyfrog says, all is good. Thank you. Excellent. Good to know. Iggy Pop says, how do we get physicians and dentists collaborating more closely on inflammation since so much of the originates in the gingiva gut? That's a good question. And right above this question is Nipa, who is dentist. So Nipa, what do you think about this question? So Nipa says Glenmark is making no spray in India. NO spray, nitric oxide spray. Sorry, I said no spray. Fabispray. Thank you. So what do you think about Iggy Pop's question? So one more question. Do you want to do a walk tomorrow and day after on Zoom? If so, I will have to post the link here or there on Discord. Maybe I would just post the link and whoever is able to join us, join us. Doug says it's just milk now. Really? We cannot say breast anymore? Or have men, you know that men can have milk expression as well. It's just that their body, their area doesn't have sufficient milk ducts, but some have by birth incorrect amount, some amount. Frisco Coupon says, hypothetically speaking, what are the benefit risks for 10 to 13 years olds who have had Pfizer doses December 21 and still never had COVID, third dose now, worth it or not? Without third dose, Pfizer is useless. So if you said that, hey, I have vaccine for my children so that the vaccine has an effect for protection, then without third dose, there is no protection. And so if the children are protected, they're just protected because you are caring for them better. But third dose, at least that's what they say up to 5, I would consider afterwards too. Iggy Pop says, agree on Sunday, being VR walk. I might actually put it up for both tomorrow and day after. So whoever can join tomorrow would do it, and day after as well. I think I would be up 5:30 and 6. So I'll post the links. Alicia says, call me old school, but I prefer my husband not to have a vagina. Doug says gynecomastia. So gynecomastia can occur, but they can actually be, gynecomastia is a hormonal problem. Men, at least twice in their life, have breasts. One, when they are children pre-pubertal, their chest area's development is also almost like women, because they're kind of, we by default are women, and then we develop into men. First within the mother's womb, the vagina is closed and then the penis is formed, but the basic shape, the beginning, is a woman's body. Then pre-puberty as well, you know that the children, boys' voices are like girls, and then their shapes, their breasts are also that way. However, the other time is after 50, when men's hormones start going down, and then the estrogens or lack of testosterone, that imbalance can also produce breasts or breast-like structures. So that is the gynecomastia, which is normal gynecomastia. There is abnormal gynecomastia, which is because of hormonal imbalances, but this is normal. And then the thing that I was alluding to, that was not gynecomastia. That was abnormal milk tissue, breast milk alveoli, and their presence. John says, only if you can draw while you walk. Sure. Par says, hello. Hello back to you. Um, Keeney says, how do you walk on Zoom? So what we do is we post a Zoom link on YouTube and on Discord, and then people just join that Zoom. And I have Zoom on my phone running, and then people join the Zoom as well, and we are just on a Zoom call and we are walking. Meeple Art says, yes, walk. I mean, excellent. So the only question is, somebody had sent me, who sent me this suggestion that make sure that there is a way that either I can have a camera. So this camera, when I was holding and running around, it was shaking. So they were saying there could be some way that it can be stabilized. So there are cameras like Insta360 or GoPro that are for these kind of activities and they don't shake much. So I might actually buy them. Jeffrey has gone all philosophical on me. What is a woman? Nope, I'm not getting into this. Skyfrog says, wait, we all start as a woman? Yes, I'm going to cry. Yes. So developing into a man is a risky thing because we actually start like a female baby, and then we have to get all of our structures formed, evolved from female structures. And so it is a risky thing. If it delays somewhere, we get in trouble. JLB says, Paul showed that the increase in long COVID would be related to the waves of infection, but rising continuously. You bet link to the vaccine that is given continuously. Wo bet linked to the vaccine that is possible. If there are again and again vaccine, then long COVID or some inflammation in some people would occur. Rima is here. Hello, Rima. How are you? Margaret says, I still can't get to Discord unless link is sent for walk. So, Margaret, I actually send you the link on your phone. So you always get it. I will send it to you as well. Iggy Pop says, Sunday. Okay, so I have scrolled up back. Susan says, you bloopered. Did I? Iggy Pop says, whose face on your phone background? Oh, that is my son, my younger son. So if I remove these, oh, why can't we just dismiss them all, these notifications? So this is my younger son. He is 25 now. Skyfrog says, I identify as a lesbian woman trapped in a man's body. Hmm. Okay. You know that nowadays the latest generation sometimes also identifies as plant, and they have a right to be identified as a plant. I'm a plant. Nice beard, yes. John said, I saw spelling bee contest where woman was the word to be spelled. The question asked by the student before spelling was define woman. You can imagine what happened. Yeah, that's why I just kind of gave up that I'm not getting into this one. So Margaret says, I know, Dr. Bean, I wish I could figure it out. The only problem with Discord is that they want the email system to be functional. You have to go to email and say verify. So Robin says, are any of your siblings doctors? Yes. So my oldest, we are four brothers. My oldest brother is a doctor and a teacher and much more popular than I am. And then I can actually show him here. Let me show you him. He is actually much more popular than I am. So if you go to YouTube and you say Dr. Najib lectures, this is Dr. Najib lectures. 1.73 million subscribers. So he is my oldest brother. So he's a doctor as well. We actually did medicine from the same college, King Edward Medical College. So he is a doctor. Then the second one is a software engineer. Then the third one is me. I'm a doctor and a software engineer. So I did what they both did. And then the fourth one is an English language teacher. Margaret says, what, a plant? Yes. So people can identify as a plant nowadays. Thank you, Kini. John says, your son is very handsome. He doesn't look like a Saro's heart. No, he does not. Thank you. Jeffrey says, Dr. Me, you have more followers. You have been censored. I have been censored, hammered a lot. Yes. Nipa says, lovely all teachers. Yes. Bay Areas Aquarius says, oh my goodness, let's share misery. My sister was a model till she got married. Nothing compares that. I do in my mom's eyes, lol. Hmm. Siddhartha says, identify as an alien. Actually, when I came to US, you know that in the beginning, before we become Americans, we are called aliens, right? So all documents say aliens. So I used to tell our children, my children, when we came to US, this younger one, he was 3 years and his older brother was 7. So I used to tell them that we are aliens. And they would say, we're aliens? Where did we come from? And I would say, we're just aliens. So that was funny. And I used to show them our papers and say, look, we are aliens. And then there was another thing that we had fins. So because we were Muslim and we were from Pakistan, after 911, we were asked to come and register, all of us, babies and men. And I think women were not asked in the beginning, but then they were as well. So we were asked to go and do a special registration and provide our fingerprints and everything. And then they would give us a FIN number, which is a fingerprint identification number, which would become our identification for police and other agencies. So we used to have fins as well. So I used to tell my children that we are aliens with fins. Skyfrog says, what does your flying saucer look? Yes. So my flying saucers are 2 black cars. Bob Chanel says they fingerprinted you. Yes. So they fingerprinted almost all everyone at that time. So what is a fin? Fin was a fingerprint identification number. So you would go there and they would take your fingerprint and picture and your data and where do you come from and where do your children go to school. And children, for some countries, children had to bring their bags to prove that they used to go to school. For us, they didn't ask for that. But then they gave us all a document, this big a document, which had our fin number on it. And we were asked to carry that all the time with us. So if somebody wants to know who we are, they can look at fin number and look us up. So we were aliens with fins. So Mark Justin says, you're all four boys. Do you have a daughter or all boys? So we are four brothers, no sister, and I have two sons and no sisters, no daughter. Keeney says, I have one uncle who was an undocumented. They arrested his son coming back from Mexico 50 years after he died, thinking he was his dad. We Irish are tricky. Oh, wow. Yes, so we used to, Alicia, I think we needed to carry the fin number and our passports. So when we would travel it, I used to remember I used to have my passport and the fin card was attached in the passport. So you just open it up and say, here's my fin number. Lisa says, I used to be a legal alien with no fins. So see, you didn't have a fin. We had fins. Didn't dare to swim. Skyfrog says, hooray, Irish. Yes. So Robin says, you mentioned you like going for long drives. Do you listen to music when you drive? If so, what? So very good question. I like long drives for two things: my business meetings and my business planning or learning. And the reason is this: if I am sitting here at home or in my office, I cannot do any planning or discussions. I'll be always distracted with reading this study or looking at that reference or picking up some book. So it is difficult for me to stay focused on something. So to keep myself focused, I trap myself in the car. And so when I'm in the car and I'm doing a meeting, I can do nothing but to drive a meeting. And similarly, when I want to learn, so over the weekends, I learn. And learning is to learn new books and to read new books and to understand better how to do business better, how to be a better human being, how to do better performance development. So I read those books. For example, nowadays I'm reading Oversubscribed. And then with the Oversubscribed, yesterday I bought another book. I forgot the name of. So that is my preparation for this weekend. So over the weekend, I take a book, let's say 6 hours long audio. And so I drive 3 hours one way with that audio and then drive 3 hours back, and now 6 hours is done. So mostly that. Music is when I am out with my wife, then we have some fun music that we both like and we put it up. Thank you, Parth. So Skyfrog says, do you have Sirius? Actually, Skyfrog, I canceled it because when I had the Sirius radio, I would become distracted in the car as well because I would just listen to the radio all the time. And so I canceled it. Erica Cat said, what if you said Christians? I think that they had said everyone from Pakistan. So I don't know if uh, if we were Christian or not. So Bay Areas Aquarius says, what does Oversubscribed cover? So Oversubscribed is a book written by an Australian entrepreneur. He was, I think, 25 when he says he made his first million and then by 29 he had an empire or a business of 10 million or so per year. But more than the money, what is interesting is that he talk about how to evaluate your offering and how to bring your offering to the right people in the right way with the correct packaging, with the correct messaging. So that structure around something and what should be that structure and who should we target. For example, he says, don't try to please everyone. Not everyone is going to like your work, but those who are going to like your work, how to make them more happy. So he has such business thoughts. Somebody recommended that book to me, so I thought I'll read it. It's a good one. I have done 4 hours so far. It is 6.5 hours. JMT Hero says, Dr. Najeeban, you are gods. Thank you. So Mark says, what podcasts have you listened to this week? So I'm going to be listening to this oversubscribed, the remaining part. And then there is another book called Influence, which is also marketing book. I keep looking at these marketing book, not to, although I might be able to use some salesy things too, but I don't want to be that slimy salesy person. I read these books to see how do I communicate in the lecture in a better way, more effective way, more how do I make my points more clear? That is how I see them or watch them. Robin says, so the influence, if I can open up these books, one is oversubscribed. This book is actually, it's a beautiful book. This is the book. This is the book, oversubscribed. So it's a good book. I have it. Then the other one is Influence. The Psychology of Persuasion. This one. So this was this author's first book, and it's a very good book by Robert E. Cialdini. So this is also a good book. What was the book I bought yesterday? I have to go to my Audible to see. But there is another book I bought yesterday. So my weekends and the drivings are mostly trying to learn and understand. And I like to learn different than medicine when I want to learn to grow myself. And the reason for this is that I have an inherent thought, and that is that whenever we look at external influences and we say they caused this, we inherently make ourselves handicapped, because then we think something else caused it. I cannot do anything about it. So Gary Vee, which is also a very popular speaker, Gary Vee had once said something which really stuck with me. And he said, even if it is not your fault, just tell yourself it is yours to manage and you will be fine. So since then, I have never ever. You may have noticed that I used to say at some point that, hey, people are complaining or they're doing this or they're doing that. I have gotten a lot of damage in the recent months, but I've never discussed it. I always say, well, this is my job to figure it out and fix it, and that's how I go. So these books kind of help me with those. What happens is, we as persons, as we are growing and living in the society, according to our personalities and our trainings, we pick up sentences from the societies. We borrow them, the ones that jive with our personality, and we reuse them. So as we keep collecting those sentences, we become a person, which is a collection of all of those. So when you decide that I am going to change my personality's core, then you have to shed all of those messages and you have to form new set of messages to create a new personality. So that is why the books become interesting for people like me who are trying to do that, so that we can figure out what are the ways of thinking of a different kind of personality. Robin says, Gary V rocks, but man, the F bombs. Yeah, he says a lot of fuck face all the time, but he's good. Tony Robbins is very good. Skyfrog says, anyone here fans of the old series, The Fringe? I don't even know this. Texas says, my dad cut his teeth in these type of books. It's all about learning about people and keeping positive. Miss that man. Yep. Denise says, wait, you listen instead of read books. So first I listen and then I read. So what happens is once I've listened, I basically go in three steps. First, I do Blinkist or short form and read a book's basic summary and to see if there is something that it may have to offer. If I feel there is something, then I do an audible. Or if somebody has strongly recommended it to me, then I do audible. Now, when I do audible and I feel that there are things to highlight and to act on, then I buy the actual book, either on Kindle or paperback, and then I highlight it and use it. Yes, Paul Borg says, Skyfrog says, have you ever listened to Pale Blue Dot by Carl Sagan? Absolutely, and many times. I love it. Meeple Art says, I need to read more. Any suggestions on the Beans? So Beans, please. Augie says, music preferences. So it is so interesting that I used to have it's special kind of music. We call it ghazal. That's kind of a poetry sung. It's a very romantic type of music genre. So I used to love that. However, lately I have become more changed and I like more pop and more upbeat type of music. JLB says that software engineering helps you to know so much of the mechanisms due to logic. I think so. And I think medicine actually helped my software engineering as well. For example, our cells do a quality assurance of how to make sure that they don't end up being cancerous while they are dividing. So how do they check for the newly developed proteins and the DNA duplications, and how do they proofread that? I was using that in one of our engineering teams. I had 400 people's team, 200 here in the US and 200 in India. And one part of that team was quality assurance engineers. And I was sitting with them one day and I was presenting that how our cells do quality assurance, to say we can adapt some of those in software engineering as well. So I think there was a mutual exchange of both sides. So Iggy Pop, I actually have a plan to tomorrow do my first podcast on Spotify. So we'll see. So Nipa says, listen to Nikita's latest Dil Ka Kabutar. Okay, I will. So for those who do not know, Nipa's daughter, she sings so well. Nipa, you should actually put the link here. And she's amazing. Sporty Bean, yes. Absolutely. Yes, heart of pigeon. Dil ka kabutar means that my heart is like a pigeon that wants to fly away, or it is fluttering like a pigeon. So it's a romantic expression, I guess. Yes, here I come. Look out, Joe Rogan. So I would post the link on Discord and to some people's phones and on YouTube. If not, this evening, maybe in the morning, half an hour before, and we can do Zoom and we'll do a walk. If I slept in because it's a weekend, then whenever I went out, I'll post the link, and then we'll walk tomorrow and day after. So with this, there are still, so Meeple Art said the same thing. Where do you list the Zoom walk? So I'll put that on the Discord, plus I'll put that on the other channels. Maybe I should do it here as well, on these channels community setting as well. But it would be tomorrow morning, my 6 o'clock or somewhere around that. So with this, have a nice weekend. Love you all. Thank you for hanging out together. So Alexa, play some Friday KoolBeens Cafe music.
Playing the music you requested. For over 90 million songs on demand, say try Amazon Music Unlimited. I couldn't find any Friday KoolBeens Cafe songs. What other music do you want to listen to?
Maybe anything that I have been listening to, Alexa.
I start listening when you press the mic button or use a wait word. For more information and to view Amazon's privacy notice, visit the help
Alexa?
section of the Alexa app.
Alexa, play my favorite music.
All right, playing music you like.
Pause. Okay, so this is my favorite ghazal. Ghazal is actually poetry that is rendered by singing. So, and this poetry is a specific type as well. Ghazal by definition means talking to pretty women. So our romantic kind of songs or poems are called ghazals. So this ghazal is my favorite, in which the poet says, and I do not know how to very nicely translate it, but the poet says, "Khabare tahayyure ishq sun." This is actually Persian language, Iranian language. Um, Khabar means news, tahayyur means surprise, ishq means love, sun. So the poet is saying that if you want to hear my story of love, khabare tahayyure ishq sun na junu raha na pari rahi. So in the Urdu language, or in the Asian, Iranian, India, Pakistan, there are two parties in love. One is called Janu, that is the party that is going mad, and the other one is called a fairy or a beauty. So there's always love is between one who is getting out of control and the other one who is the beauty. And so these are two entities. But this poet is saying, don't ask me for my story of love, because when I was in love, or when we were in love, there was nobody going mad and there was no beauty. Jo raha, to what was, Alexa? Actually, I'll have to read it somewhere. Na janu raha na pari rahi, jo raha to. So I think the na to tu raha na main raha, jo rahi so bekhabari rahi. And so what this love did was that you were not you anymore, and I was not me anymore. The only thing that was left in existence was an unawareness of us, meaning we just were so lost. So that is the poem or ghazal that I love. And so I think Alexa only knows this one because I listen to that sometimes. Okay, so with this, thank you very much. Have a nice weekend. I can actually share this one link if you wanted to just hear what it is. It is John 653 says that sounds like a great pickup line. Way to go, Dr. Bean. Thank you. Yes, Ramnik says I like her spiritual songs. Yes, she does a lot of Sufi songs. So with this, thank you very much. Nice weekend. We'll walk together tomorrow and day after. Bye bye.